Hey guys, Nuie here, and I'm back in Allods again. I want to apologize. I meant to get out a message on my Twitter or on my Instagram about what I was going to be doing during Father's Day weekend. So I apologize if you guys were looking for me in game in Allods because I was absolutely not home. I was enjoying my Father's Day. I was out and about. I was enjoying some of the festivities going on in my neighborhood and enjoying some of the some good food over at Golden Corral. So I just wasn't home. But I'm back again. I'm playing again. I'm getting ready to do a raid. But before that, I was gonna talk about a how I run my pally tank. So this is pretty much just gonna be my guide to pally tanking in general. I'm gonna show you my skill trees and stuff, but I'm not gonna take down my guild tag or anything like that. But I'm just gonna run through basically what my build is and what it looks like in game. So I'm just here at my personal ally, so there's just not a lot of people, and I can reduce the amount of lag or anything because I'm pretty much the only one who can get here. But yeah, hopping into the build. As the only time I play my tank for PvE, or the only time I play my paladin for PvE is in tank spec. I've been doing this for pretty much since I started paladin. I really don't play it in any other aspects. I do play it in a PvP build, but that's not exactly the same. So it's quite a bit more survivability and stuns and stuff instead of over just raw damage. When it comes to when it comes to just basically a raw damage build for Pally, you can kind of get away without running any defensive stuff because mostly because of the new Strike of Justice Vanguard effect, which works either in both in tank aspect and DPS aspect, so that's a nice buff for just being able to get out raw damage and ignore other shields. But hopping into my build, I take rank 3 Retribution as well as rank 3 Seal of Righteousness. These are in a way my main aggro generators, but they're also just the way that I constantly refresh my cannons, because as the changes they did in 8.1, the Seal of Righteousness now grants you a Cannon of Purity, and Retribution now grants you a Cannon of Light. This is the same for Vindication and Seal of Inability, respectively. So, but there's no point in running I don't see the point in running these two instead of just running the base ones, because first off, I still run like a Holy Pally build, so I'm still based off of Holy Damage, Swiftness, and things like that. So I'm not too heavily focused on my physical damage. But I'll get to stats. A little bit later. But after that, I take rank 2 for Pledge of Purity and rank 2 Holy Pledge. I do not take rank 3s because of the cannon generation from Seal of Righteousness and Retribution. It's no longer necessary to tank rank 3. However, I do like rank 2 just because it's just a quick way to get out cannons when I need them. Typically, I'll get to that. I'll get to my rotation later. I'll explain that all. I'll explain that all in a little bit. But I run rank 2 Strike of Justice just because I don't have maximum amount of rubies to be able to run it in rank 3. I also run rank 2 Overcome. The difference between 10% is not a big deal, so this actually just alleviates talent points for me to be able to just get other things. As always, every tank aspect, rank 3 aspect of defense, 100% necessary. If you guys don't run aspect of defense and try to tank, you're gonna be shit. I'm just like, the new roles are incredibly important. Rank 3 Holy Ground. This is kind of unique to my build because a lot of pallies I notice don't particularly like Holy Ground because of both the cannon cost as well as the pretty tremendous cooldown. Even at, I think I'm upwards about 500 swiftness right now. At least that's my aiming point anyways. I'm still at almost 50 seconds in my cooldown, so It's kind of a pain, but I like the healing it does as well as the pretty good aggro generation that it creates. So I do still run this in my tank build. Also, I typically always have a surplus of cannons, so it doesn't negatively affect my build or anything like that to run that. Um, Moving on, I take rank 3 Martyr Shield. Martyr Shield is one of my core abilities in Pally. I also take rank 3 Rage of Light. Um, Heading downwards, I take rank 3 Condemnation. Condemnations has a ton of rubies now in the new 8.1 grid, so we have a ton of ways to get damage off of that. I also use this as pretty much my main damage source when it comes to tanking and holding aggro. Um, I run rank 3 Conviction. It's not 100% necessary. I've gotten away with running just rank 1 Conviction, I believe, is the lowest I've been able to hold aggro with, but I like running rank 3 just being sure because some people do tremendous amounts of damage and I want to make sure I can hold aggro over them. I run rank 3 Defensive Screen. This is, again, ties in very well with Martyr Shield, so I'll get to that in a minute. But I also run rank 2 Veil of Light and rank 2 Holy Intervention. I do not run Circle of Justice. I know some techs do. I don't particularly. I'm more comfortable with being able to tank groups of mobs than just having to section them off and try to do it that way. Also, I prefer to run a more party-oriented build, so I'm more focused on being able to get group healing out as well as group shielding with Veil of Light and Holy Ground and Overcome and just Defensive Screen. I like to be able to get that healing out. And I run Holy Intervention because sometimes healers get low, sometimes they get stunned, and it's just a good way to make sure that you can keep your party alive a little bit longer. Heading into the groupie grid, the only talents I take in Inquisitor tree is the swiftness and the extra health. I do not take anything else in this challenge tree. Continuing on, I take rank 2 Scourge of Darkness. I would take rank 3 if I had the extra ruby, but I do not, so take rank 3 Scourge of Darkness. I also tank all of the Vigor rubies as well as all of the Rage Light rubies and and the Solstice ruby. Solstice is helpful well, if you have a correct party, it allows you to just pull all of the adds to you. So basically it allows you to not only quickly gain aggro, it also allows your group to really single focus everything. So your AoE damage can be very, very good off of that. I do run this one Holy Oath because I typically only run Holy Oath. Just gives me an extra Holy Pledge because typically that is the ruby that the holy cannons are typically the ones that you end up using the most of. Whereas the other type you don't typically use a large amount of in tank aspect. I then take Heat Lightning. Heat Lightning is a good way to gain heat. Is basically your aggro generators for large packs of mobs. It comes in combination with Rage of Light, and then it's pretty much any melee ability. So I'll be talking about that when I get to my rotation. I take rank 3 Interdiction. Make sure that Rage of Light gets onto in Condemnation spreads my conviction across all of my mobs. So just on that, and then I run rank 2 of Holy Ground's Crown. It increases the damage by 66% and reduces the cooldown. The reduced cooldown is not the reason I get this. I like the damage buff from it, and it's just something else to run. Since I am running a build that happens to have Holy Ground in it. Moving on into the tank grid, I take pretty much everything here except for Deadly Threat, Atonement, Ferocious Flame, Glowing Shield, and Rebuke. Oh, and Announcement. These rubies are significantly better when. Well, I'll talk about this. The Announcement and Denouncement, Atonement, and Ferocious Flame are all rubies pretty much used solely for PvP. Same with kind of Deadly Threat. It's really not a PvE ruby. Um, if you are running a particular, if you particularly like to, you can run aspect. You can run either this or you can run this. I've tested both during the time that we had our Water of Death or Droplets of Water of Life. I tested both, but I don't particularly like it. It just doesn't suit my playstyle because I prefer to be able to get defensive screen out, so I will also have a shield regardless. So, but they do, these rubies do work. It's just I don't particularly prefer them when I run a build. I do run. When it comes to this Deadly Threat, the reason I don't run this because it doesn't work on bosses or anything, so there's no point in using it. And but I do run this because when it comes to like S14 mob packs, they do quite a bit more damage than single target mobs. So being able to put weakness onto them is becomes kind of just a helpful measure so that you take even less damage. Heading into the tree, I just get 80%. Your barriers store 80% of the incoming damage instead of 50. So it's the extra 30% damage that your barriers can store for you. It also increases your generated threat by another 30%. Defensive screen grants you a shield that absorbs damage equal to 50% of the damage stored in the destroyed barrier. So this is why I was talking about earlier where defensive screen and Martyr Shield are working together. Your Martyr Shield applies defensive buff. I like this, it just reduces damage to your party. Martyr Shield additionally reduces damage stored in all barriers by 30%. And then it all gets placed into one barrier. I like this because basically you make it so that all your damage goes to one barrier, and then you can use that barrier to create a shield for everyone on your group. So that's how those two work together. Rage of Light and Holy Ground, 100% more increased threat, so I like that. And then heading up, I just get both taunts. I also run Templar's Tenacity, so that when my barriers fade and receive damage in it, I get a random cannon. This is why I say I always have tons and tons of cannons. And then consuming any cannon reduces the damage stored in my barriers, so that gives me a little bit more survivability. Condemnation applies the conviction effect. If you don't have this ruby, then you're basically it's not worth it to run condemnation because it won't apply conviction, so you won't get the increased aggro from it. Vanguard, Strike of Justice gives them more Vanguard effect, so it just increases the duration of that Vanguard effect. Heading up, while you're in range of you take reduced damage. So once again, reduced damage while in Holy Ground. This is why I like running this so much. And you also get that for Rage of Light. Maximum amount of damage stored in each barrier increases by 30% from your maximum health. So just getting more of my overall survivability. It also reduces the cooldowns of my barrier abilities. Increase the number of barriers. This is changed in 8.1, where you can no longer run this in both tank aspect or DPS aspect. You can only run it in defense aspect now, so that's new. Overcome, healing my party. This is just a nice little extra heal, and then Last Frontier, which is just another extra heal from Holy Ground. It'll mostly go to you, but it also goes to any melee party members you have as well. So. Also, there are quite a few bosses now at times that pull mobs together, so this is a bit more helpful for that as well. And then lastly, just reparation. Just any time I consume a cannon heals you. So this is just nice for me. It helps me because I tend to consume a lot of cannon, so it just gives me a nice little bit of healing overall. So that's the build. That's my talents and rubies, and now I'll go into my stat points. So for my stat points, I run somewhat around 200 proficiency, just a little bit of determination, and then a little bit of brutality. Overall, your damage stats don't particularly matter because you're more focused on holding aggro, and holding aggro doesn't 100% have to do with doing large amount of damage. Yes, you will gain aggro if you're doing large amounts of damage, but when it comes to being an actual tank, you already have so many extra threat generators, so it doesn't particularly include that. Moving on into my special stats, I run holy damage. I'm aiming for about 180-ish. So that's when it stops being the most effective. It's about 33% increase in holy, and it also increases the healing I get. Swiftness, I tend to maximize swiftness towards leggies last patch for me. I think that was upwards about 530, 600-ish. And then I even run a swiftness potion, so I'll be upwards around 700, just to give me my reduced cooldowns. Typically, I like to run about 300 survivability and 300 to 400 caution. Survivability just makes it easier for healers to heal you, and then caution just makes it so you take way less damage when your health gets below 40%. This also is affected by, like, if a barrier is going to drop you below, then you'll also start taking less damage. So I like to run this. I've tested switching between those two and running more caution and running more survivability, but I like this kind of balance where it's just a little bit more caution than survivability. So that's my preferred. I have Bloodlust, but that's Bloodlust from other things. I don't particularly run stat points into Bloodlust. So that'll cover my stats. Now moving on to rotation. When I do my rotation, actually hold on, I'll move this out of the way for now. I'll move this out of the way. Okay, when I run my rotation, I will typically start off any fight with condemnation. This gets out the immediate damage and immediate conviction onto my main target, which is typically the largest mob in the group, and then I follow that up by simultaneously pressing Holy Pledge and Charge, so that I get into your range, and then I have cannons to be able to cast Rage of Light, and Rage of Light will pull everything to me, and then it'll also put on it'll start the countdown for when my condemnation will go out onto all the mobs around me. After casting this, I recast condemnation so that when this condemnation pops, it gets its maximum timer. For those of you who haven't played Pally particularly a lot, at least in 8.1 patch, when you use Rage of Light, there's a small period of time before condemnation actually goes off. In that period of time, you want to refresh your condemnation actual so that it increases the maximum duration of that output combination. The maximum duration that you can get is about 5 seconds, so it's just 5 seconds of more damage, and you basically get two condemnation stacks at the same time. So that's what you want to focus on with that. Then once I have everything pulled to me, I rotate between Seal of Righteousness and Retribution. Typically mobs, like AoE mobs, are typically dead by then, especially in like S13. But that's the rotation I still use in terms of just anything like that. So also when it comes to group mobs, I typically tend to do Massive Challenge. One, because no DPS are typically very annoying and they just attack. So I want to make sure all mobs are on me. It also puts out the reduced damage I take. Now, when it comes to proper barrier management, Martyr's Shield is the first ability I use, and then I follow that up immediately with Defensive Screen. I use this so that all my barriers go to one barrier, so I get about the biggest barrier I've had, I think, is about 26 million or something like that. And then I get to pop that with Defensive Screen, and that gives me the large shield for my entire group, as well as a shield on me, and as well as decent heal. I also use Overcome when I just have a smaller barrier. Well, I have one barrier, but I don't have all of my cooldowns up yet. However, one of my barriers is about to pop. I will use Overcome as just like quick barrier management. But spamming Overcome can kill you, so be careful of that. When it comes to Blood Aegis, I just run Blood Aegis just because it's an ability. It's not entirely as useful as it seems like it should be, but it's just kind of an extra little tanky bit. I also run Unity from my race abilities. I own all of the race abilities, which if you guys don't know, in the cash shop there's an item called the Book of Secrets. This will give you all the racial abilities for all the races pertaining to your class. So this is an incredibly important buy. I would say it's about 900 shards. In total, you can probably farm 900 shards. If you're just a free-to-play player, you can probably get 900 shards in about For me, it would probably take about a week maximum. From you, depending on how much gold you're farming per week, it could take more, and depending on the exchange rate prices, it can take longer. But that's what I'm running, so that I get, one, it's an extra shield, and two, it's just a 10% extra shield. Basically, it's helpful. But other than that, that's basically my rotation. That's basically how I'll stay together and how I'll pull mobs. I only use Holy Grounds when I have Holy Pledge back up. I won't use it beforehand because it will use up all my cannons, and I won't be able to properly swap barriers if I use it incorrectly at times. So use it kind of more for like single target bosses, because it'll just give you a heal. When I use it in AoE groups, you really want to be able to use it and then immediately pop this so that you have cannons to be able to swap your barriers. If you use it and you don't have this up, it's going to be very difficult for you to both gain cannons off of seal and be able to have them in time for when your barrier is about to swap. You only have 10 seconds on your barriers, so you need to be more aware of when your barriers are up and when they need to be rotated than when you're actually looking at outright damage that you're doing. So this is my guide and my tutorial on tank paddling and my thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm sorry if it was a little bit long, but I wanted to make sure I covered pretty much everything. So I'm gonna head out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for weekly Allods content, and please be sure to leave any comments below for anything you guys to see on my channel. Also, I have a Patreon, so once again, patreon.com/NuieG if you guys really want to support me and help me continue doing things like these. But I will catch you all later.
Heaven sent my residence.